what I wanted to do today with a group of founders is just tell you about the 10 years before that and the journey really of where we started and how we got to raise a significant Series A, where we are today and where we're headed in the future. And so our journey, our story starts on a train platform 10 years ago, 12 years ago actually, in Bellville here in Cape Town, where my train was late. And every morning when I'd get to the station, my train wasn't there. And in the afternoon, when I got to the platform, train wouldn't come on time. And so I could never tell my boss when I'd be in, at what time I'd be in the office, and I could never tell my wife what time I'd be home. She didn't really believe the trains are always late, but that's another story. And so I thought to myself, but hang on, if we can know what time the movies are, if we can know what time things happen on our mobile phones, then surely we can put the train times on mobile phone. And what I learned is that transport and mobility is made up of really old systems. So when you see these headlines where flights get delayed and these computers crash, and our IT systems that run transport, are really old, they're really legacy. They've almost been built in code that no one can any longer write, and they just hope that it doesn't break down. And so I realized that there was a massive opportunity to digitize transport, and that's what GoMetro has been doing for the last 10 years, is looking at where are the opportunities in large transport mobility sectors in order for us to digitize them and rewrite these old legacy code bases. Because if the guys that wrote the original systems are retired, well, that's an industry rife for disruption. And so as a young engineer, I set out to build a team of students, and we built an app, and we launched this app. And we had to, right in the beginning of those days, we had to buy our own servers. There was no such thing as AWS. There was no such thing as Azure. There was no such thing as credits for the first year to build. So you young developers that get to spin up a server and use up your credits, those are great days. Build, build, build. Because we had to give a chunk of our business away to the company that was hosting us, because it was 2012, and that's what you had to do. But we kept the commercial rights to the application, and we kept the commercial rights to the product. And what we learned there is that when you're building, build lean, build light, build small, until you've got unit economics that make sense. And so all of our money was being pumped into development and pumped into the app, pumped into growth. And I still remember when we reached about 100,000 monthly active users, it's only then that the advertisers started paying attention. And it was only then that we could really start doing business. So whenever you start a business, always look at what's the critical mass. What's the number that I need to get to that I can then start commercializing? In our case, it was 100,000 users. If we had 10,000 downloads, well, what does that mean? But 100,000 users meant that we could start engaging with advertisers. In later years, where we now have a logistics platform and we're working with trucks, we've learned that getting to 10,000 trucks on our platform was this magic number. And so in your industry, in your business, in your product, there's this magic number that once you get over it, you're now a player. And all you've got to do is identify what that number is and get over that number so that you can then be a player. And then the deals will start coming to you. So 2012, we started this as a bootstrapped app. We were running ads on it. Nobody was drawing a salary because it's bootstrapped. So all your money is going to media, ads, apps. And then I remember at that stage getting some phone calls. I got a phone call from Nokia. Hi, we'd like you to be on the S60 phone. And we'll pay you, I think it was 100,000 Rand at that stage, like $5,000, $6,000, which to us was like a life-changing amount of money at that stage, because we could do so much with $6,000. And then BlackBerry phoned us and they offered us $8,000. And so we were just at the right time to be relevant to the trend of the time. Because Android was coming up, but nobody had Android. Everyone had BBM and BlackBerry. Or you had an S60, the little Nokia, right? the rich kids had iPhones, but we laughed at them anyway because you couldn't do much with an iPhone. And the cool kids had Androids, right? I think mine was the Motorola B625 was my first one. So it's at that transition. So again, when you're starting up and you're agile and you're young and you can move your venture around, you can make decisions quickly, identify what are the trends of the day. In 2012, 2013, it was going mobile, and it was the battle of the keyboard versus the touchscreen. And Androids were just coming online and becoming current, but BBM was still popular and BlackBerry was still popular because of its BIS, its free internet service. And Nokia, which had the market share, was starting to fade. And so all of these parties were fighting for market share, and guess what? They all wanted a public transport app. They all wanted a relevant piece of content. And so we were able to leverage $8,000 there, $6,000 there. Only afterwards did I realize that they probably would have paid double, and I should have negotiated harder. But be that as it may, when you position yourself at a changing point in technology, suddenly the big players want to talk to you. So identify what are trends and where's your market moving, and position yourself firmly there. Today at GoMetro, it's not about mobile phones and it's not about passenger transport and public transport information. It's really about electrification. Because the trends today and where the industry is moving today, it's at electrification. So over the last 3 years, we have completely moved our stack. If you map out the journey over 10 years, we've essentially reinvented our platform 3 times. We started out mobile and being a mobile application for public transport and being a mobile application for collecting information around public transport. We still have a core business that does that and does that very well. In fact, I think right now our technology is being used in Dakar, in Bangladesh, Kathmandu in Nepal. We've just finished up in Tirana in Albania. So our mobile tech is still rolling out, and it's this really great legacy business which is growing quite nicely. But then we moved and transitioned during COVID to logistics and logistics operations. And we identified, well, what is the one thing we can do, knowing what we know about logistics and about commercial vehicle transport. And what we realized that we could do very well is data management and cloud engineering. And so we built a data aggregation, telematics aggregation tool. We integrated all the telematics providers we could find, all their APIs into one place. And suddenly we can offer to truckers, transporters, logistics operators, a whole new vertical for us, the ability to switch on a vehicle and switch a vehicle off. Any vehicle doing work for them, we can switch on their telematics. And that's a product we've rolled out called Bridge. Using what we've known about transport and technology and the mobility sector, we built a whole new product for a whole new vertical, but we kept the same back office infrastructure. And so the African way really is you get one shot here at building a really great business. And so build shared infrastructure, have your products, but don't be scared to go multiple verticals. Your VC will tell you, go all in. What's the one thing? If there's one thing, that the VC wants an outsized return. They want a 10 times return. So they want you to put all the wood behind one thing. As a founder, you've got to live with this business. This is your child, your baby. It's what you care about. You want to see it thrive. And so really look at multiple plays that can give you resilience. Because when that one thing is going slower or going through a cycle, well, you've got to have plan B as a founder. Again, this isn't advice you're going to hear at a startup conference from VCs, but you're going to hear it from a founder. Because the game here is time and market. The game here isn't growth at all costs up to the right and let's all pretend that everything's going well in our investor updates. The game here is growth, is time and market so that you can have the reputation, the brand, and the capability that the customer comes back to you. Because when a customer hears about your product for the first time, they're like, well, they're not going to be around in 6 months' time. Why should I invest in purchasing this if in 6 months' time they're not around? Well, if in 6 months' time you're still around, okay, maybe we run a trial. But we're going to run a small trial only for a few months, then we evaluate. They run the trial, they evaluate, and then it's another 3 months before they make a decision. So it's a year before they'll actually put cash into your bank account. And so time and market means everything to an African startup. And then in 2020, we launched, after COVID allowed us out our houses, we launched our logistics play, and we started growing our truck sector, and we started growing our truck market. We then went heavily into commercial vehicles and focused intently on the next wave. So we had done the mobile application, digitalization, electrification was now the next wave. And so we built out an electric vehicle management system, management platform, with one electric vehicle, because 2020, there's no electric vehicles here. We had access to one vehicle, and we built our whole system around it. But then we went out into the broader market, into markets like the UK and Europe, where there are electric vehicles. And we started finding partners that wanted what we have. What we have is problem-solving ability. What we have is a great back office. What we have are great data engineers. And so rather than focusing on a tiny, tiny market, this 0.3% of global GDP market, which is South Africa, we went to where the fish were. So sometimes it does mean that you have to go outside of Africa to where the market that you want to be is, so that you can bring the market back with you. And so where we went to in 2022, 23, about a year ago, is we were able to attract, because of our logistics and our telematics skills. Do you know what the biggest topic in the UK today is in our field? It's how do we make these trucks go electric? How do we make trucks, these big emitters of carbon, how do we make them go electric? And to make them go electric, you need better data. You need digitalization. Guess who has a mobile app? The driver. And you need enhanced experience in telematics. And so those building blocks that we had as a company, that we'd built over the course of a decade of engineering and building out, those building blocks were right for us to find a relevant solution and make an offer to our eventual lead investor. And so we started out a partnership with a company called Zenobē Energy, who finance electric buses. That's their business. They've raised $2 billion from KKR and Infra Capital, and they're deploying that into about 5,000 to 10,000 electric buses and trucks over the next 5 to 10 years. And their number one issue that they needed solving was the fact that all of these different trucks and bus makes all have different telematic systems. So when you buy a Scania, it comes with Scania's connected fleet. When you buy a Volvo, it comes with Volvo. So their number one problem was aggregating telematics, which we had solved, check. Their number two problem was understanding all these vehicles and everything that you can get out of them, which we could solve, check. And their number three problem was putting this in the cloud in an efficient manner so that storage and processing and the application of analytics could happen quickly, check. And so we've been able to offer a world-class product that is 10 times better than the incumbent telematics that come off these electric vehicles. And we're able to do this now at scale because we found the right partners. And it was about building capability, retaining optionality, making sure you have time in market, and striking when you find that opportunity. So my advice to you startup founders is ride that wave, build your capability, don't take those oversized risks, always have time in market, but when it comes time to make the bet, make the bet. And so we've backed ourselves to build the best telematics platform for electric buses and trucks globally, agnostically. That's a non-OEM product. We're going after and rolling out into 30 bus depots in the UK. We're expanding our footprint to 4,500 electric vehicles, electric buses and trucks in the next few years. And this year we were able to announce the introduction of South Africa's first electric minibus taxi, the iKamva, which will be available in South Africa next year. We'll be building out a hub at Century City for 40 electric minibus taxis to operate out of a fast charging hub. And it's now bringing that learning and what Europe and the UK are doing back into SA and making it African. And so watch this space next year as we introduce a real African mobility solution. But for founders, it's a long road, it's tough, but it's really, really rewarding, and just keep going. Thank you.